Welcome to Tezzeret Deploy. Hope you're excited to turn some Thopters into some angels. That is some good magic right there. But let's start off with the core concept of the deck itself, and that is going to be Divine Visitation and Tezzeret, Artifice Master. Now, the core foundation of this deck is definitely going to be a blue-white control shell. That's definitely what we're building. But our win condition is going to be these two cards, Divine Visitation. It says if one or more tokens we put on the battlefield, create that many 4/4 angel tokens with flying and vigilance instead. So let's say that we end up going for a Tezzeret +1, we have Divine Visitation on the battlefield. Instead of getting a 1/1 Thopter, we get a 4/4 angel with flying and vigilance, and that is a wonderful way to really close the game out and put a ton of pressure on your opponent. So once you kind of get down Divine Visitation, we're trying to close the game out by getting down some sort of cheap token spell. Another spell that we are running in the deck that really helps us kind of push that angel game plan is going to be Depose and Deploy. For the most part, we're going to be using that deploy part on the second half, create 2 colorless Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying, then we gain a life for each creature that we control. This is a 4 mana instant speed spell that we can cast to get 2 4/4 angels on the battlefield. Most of the time, you're going to be able to stop whatever sort of threat your opponent's swinging in with, and at the same time, let's say we don't have Divine Visitation on the battlefield, you can use this to kind of stabilize a little bit against some of your mono red burn matchups, or any sort of your aggro matchups where your life total is kind of like a resource. They're really attacking it pretty heavily. But the core concept of the deck is get down Divine Visitation, we get down Tezzeret. We are running a few artifacts in here, which I'll cover later in the deck tag, so that does kind of work to where we can use that 0 ability to draw some cards if we need to. But core concept is get down Divine Visitation, get down Tezzeret, go for that +1, turn those Thopters into angels, or use Deploy as kind of a combat trick to catch some creatures off guard, or simply just flash in at the end of your opponent's turn and end up with some 4/4 angels. So it's just, man, it's free real estate. I love this deck. It's a ton of fun. Let's move on. Besides the token enablers, the way we close the game out, and that's going to be board wipes. We want to make sure the board is clear for these tokens. We're running 0 creatures in this deck, so we don't really care. We're running 3 copies of Cleansing Nova and either 1 or 2 copies of Settle the Wreckage. Long story short, like I mentioned, we just want to make sure the coast is clear, go for Deploy, get those 2 Angels tokens on the battlefield, and just start swinging in. Even if your opponent tries to rebuild after a board wipe, the fact that we have Angel tokens with Vigilance, that's going to be really hard for them to overcome at that point in the game, and these cards definitely help you kind of push the game towards that particular point. Outside of the board wipes, you want to run some sort of counter magic. I'm running some hard counters in here. I'm running 4 copies of Absorb and 2 copies of Sinister Sabotage. We could run a few other counter spells, but at this point, we want to go to the late game as quickly as possible, and a lot of these spells allow us to kind of stabilize and stop whatever sort of threat our opponent gets down, and we get a little bit of an added benefit to these counter spells. So the Absorb is going to give us 3 life gain, and then Sinister Sabotage is going to allow us to dig just a little bit deeper into our library. Now, we do have a pretty bad bottleneck at the 5 converted mana cost. We are running a nice little assortment of artifacts in here. I'm running 4 copies of Power Stone Shard and 2 copies of Chromatic Lantern. Made the Chromatic Lanterns in here to help us make sure we're online for Absorb as quickly as possible. And then the Power Stone Shard, it's going to work out really well with Dawn of Hope. You know, let's say we get down Divine Visitation, we get down Dawn of Hope early in the game, we get down we can't find Tezzeret. Once we kind of get these Power Stone Shards going, we can use that as a wonderful mana sink to end up with some beautiful angel tokens on the battlefield instead of those soldier tokens, simply just for 4 mana. And there's a lot of times where if you simply get 2 or 3 Power Stone Shards on the battlefield, you're basically just tapping down for 1 white mana to get an angel on the battlefield, and that feels really good. Now, as far as Game 1, this is really going to help us kind of power out your Game 1 plays. Once you go into the best of 3 matches, you go into your sideboarding. Depending on what the matchup is, most of the time you're going to bring some of those artifacts out. Like I mentioned, they help us power Dawn of Hope. They also help us kind of go for that 0 activated ability with Tezzeret. So once you kind of go into those sideboard matches where you need a lot more answers into your deck, these are some of the cards that you're definitely going to cut because they're basically just kind of added benefit to kind of really help us power out a Game 1. Outside of the artifacts, we are running some sort of card advantage. That's going to be Chemistry's Insight, Anticipate, and Opt. We want to be able to find some sort of answer as quickly as possible, whether it's finding our Divine Visitation, whether it's finding a token enabler with Divine Visitation, or maybe we're playing against Nexus extra turns and we need to find some sort of counter spell. Either way, we would have some amount of cantrips in the deck to really kind of help us dig deeper into the library. Now that is going to be it for the deck tech. Like I mentioned, this is a very core concept, just blue-white control, and then using Divine Visitation and some sort of token spell to close the game out. So make sure you stick around. I have some wonderful gameplay videos for you up next. Welcome to Tezzeret Deploy. As far as our opening hand goes, we've got triple Divine Visitation. Yeah, I guess we keep on this one. I'm not super wild about the triple Divine Visitation, but at the end of the day, we've got Anticipate and we have Teferi. So we'll go and keep on this one. We'll go and pass the turn over to our opponent. So hopefully we can make something work out of that. It's always good to at least have one copy of Divine Visitation in your opening hand. Well, there we go. Run into Deploy, so we'll take that. Let's get down Glacial Fortress. Now, since we did see a Glacial Fortress from our opponent, I'd like to just go and jam this Anticipate. That way we can just dig a little bit deeper. And Power Stone Shard. Yeah, I think we'll grab Power Stone Shard. We'll put those on the bottom in any order. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that we do run into that third land drop. One of the main things in this deck you want to do is definitely get down some sort of turn 3 mana rock. That really helps you just turn out these Teferis, these Divine Visitations a lot quicker. I really enjoy them. Chromatic Lantern, okay. Anything else? What we can do is if our opponent does end up getting down a creature, we can end up going for tap it down and draw a card. May not be the best option for us to go for, but at least that allows us to kind of filter some of our card draw. One of the main reasons why I kept this 3 Divine Visitation hand is I've been trying to record it, and it seems like Divine Visitation has been hiding out on the bottom of the library. And I was just like, where have you been, partner? All right, so we draw to absorb. Let's go ahead and kick it back over there to our opponent, and unfortunately the jig will be up once we get rid of this Divine Visitation. They're going to go for Revitalize. We'll get rid of Divine Visitation, and then hopefully, once we hit that third land drop, that'll allow us to get down these artifacts. We're running like 24 lands in here, so hopefully next turn I will run into it sometime soon. But like I mentioned, if we get down some sort of creature, we will... All right, drawn to Guildgate. Okay, let's get down Guildgate, and then let's go and pass the turn to our opponent. Now, we did see Root Snare from, that's going to be prevent all combat damage this turn. We are seeing Bant. More than likely, this is going to be Bant Nexus. And so if they end up getting down Wilderness Reclamation and they start going for a few extra turns, we'll see if we can kind of survive this one. We'll see what they have in store for us. But at least next turn, we are looking at some of our artifacts. All right, Sinister Sabotage. Let's try to get this Chromatic Lantern to stick. Probably running into a counterspell with them just kind of sitting back and not doing anything. Probably just have it burning in the hand. Or they might end up going for Chemister's Insight. We'll see what they tap down for. But this is Deploy. Okay, so we're playing against another Deploy deck. All right, it should be kind of fun. We get down Chromatic Lantern. That'll at least kind of open us up on mana. And then we'll be able to kind of sequence some pretty good stuff with this Divine Visitation. The only downside is we are playing against a blue-based deck. We do have to watch out for counter spells. When you're trying to cast a 5-mana spell into a control deck, it's not that much fun. You're pretty worried about getting it to stick. But thankfully, we've got 2 of them in the hand, and hopefully we can make this work. So let's go for Power Stone Shard. Okay, we're going to get that to stick, and then we're going to go for Dawn of Hope. Get down Power Stone Shard. Now, as we start to draw a few more Power Stone Shards, we can really start going for these Dawn of Hope activations. That really kind of helps us amplify these creature tokens out. And you can see we're getting it down with Divine Visitation. Really makes a huge difference. Get the Reveal Zone popped up too as our opponent. Actually, looks like they whipped on that flip Search for Azcanta, but we'll at least kind of leave this up that way we don't forget about it. But yeah, once you get down Divine Visitation, there's no better feeling than going for Deploy. Now, one of the cards that I did have in here for Arena is Confront the Assault, I think. It's a 5-mana instant speed that as long as a creature's attacking you, you get to put 3 Spirit tokens onto the battlefield. And, oh man, there's no better feeling with Divine Visitation and going for that spell and end up with 3, 4, 4 Angels. Oh, that's some good magic right there. All right, so we run into Tezzeret, and that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess we could go for a counterspell test with Divine Visitation. We really haven't seen any sort of action from our opponent. And if this sticks, that really makes this Deploy really... Okay, yeah, that's going to get through. All right, so we'll just go and pass the turn. Like I mentioned, we're seeing Growth Spiral. Might be seeing a Nexus of Fate sometime soon. They're probably digging for that. Yep, there we go. I was about to say, that's what they're digging for. Once they get down this Nexus of Fate, the only good thing is that's pretty much, hopefully it's the last card they have in their hand. And then once we get down these Angel tokens, that'll be a way for us to kind of stabilize. Okay, we got the twin Thopter swinging in for 2. That's going to put us down to 14. And we'll probably see this Nexus of Fate come down at this point right now. Good thing they do not have Wilderness Reclamation on the battlefield at this point. That allowed them to untap and end up with a ton of mana. Or end up with double Azcanta activation. So, but you can definitely see where, you know, if you're a fan of Nexus of Fate, it's a very interesting card. Kind of very interesting to play against. You know, it's, you know, there's different decks out there that do different things, but Nexus of Fate is pretty brutal. Now, with their opponent getting down to fair, they can end up going for the -3 on Divine Visitation. Yeah, this is exactly what they end up going for, and thankfully we just didn't run into another Nexus of Fate. So how do we want to set this turn up? We can end up going for Teferi. If we end up going -3 on their own Teferi, that's going to be one of the Thopters doing cleanup duty. If we try to set up another Divine Visitation and end up going for Deploy, that kind of gives us a little bit of time to deal with Teferi. Yeah, let's give that a shot. Let's just, if we're going to win the game, we're just going to be on the back of a ton of tokens. So let's try to get this going. That's going to be 1, 2, 3. Let's get down Divine Visitation. If they have a counterspell, so be it. And then we'll go and pass the turn to our opponent. That's going to put us on Teferi next turn, dealing with their Teferi. And it's going to be a little bit before they can actually work towards that -3. And if they end up running into a few more Nexus of Fates, we'll probably end up doing is just throwing this over to sideboard, because that's where a lot of our counter magic is, or at least our lower to the ground counter magic is. That way we can kind of really fight some of this stuff from our opponent. We do have Exposed to Daylight in here. That's another way for us to deal with Search for Azcanta, and also deal with any sort of Wilderness Reclamation style effects, and just kind of give us a fighting chance, basically. And let's see the reveal off of the Search for Azcanta. Okay, we're going to be Perception, which is basically just going to be draw 3 cards. Now that does allow them to untap and cash in 3 card draw. They can float this 3 mana, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So they, you know, if they end up going for the 5, that's going to put them at 9. That will put them in just enough range to end up going for the, we went for another Nexus of Fate. Okay, it's going to be another turn. And then let's see, they go for Azcanta activation. It's going to be another Nexus of Fate. And I think on this one, what we're going to do is we're just going to scoop this one up. I'm pretty sure that's 2 Nexus of Fates back to back, so yeah, playing against this is it's pretty brutal sometimes. Let's back off these Cleansing Novas, because what we really want to fight is we really want to fight on those Nexus of Fates. Let's bring in Disdainful Stroke, bring those in. Let's bring in 4 Negates. Let's bring in 2 Search for Azcantas. We can end up going for Deputy Detention, I think. That would actually be a pretty good option. What we're going to do on this one, we're just kind of back off the Divine Visitation game plan, and really just kind of shift this over into more of a blue-white control style deck. We can leave in 1 Divine Visitation. We're going to leave a few tokens in. I still like leaving Tezzeret in here too, as a little bit of a card source draw. We'll back off Tezzeret. Settle the Wreckage is not super important in this one. And let's just go and back off some of these artifacts. We'll bring in 1 more Divine Visitation, because I do kind of like leaving at least some sort of intact shell, Dawn of Hope, and a Deploy. And anything else we're going to bring in, let's go and bring in that Exposed to Daylight, because that's going to be really hard for us to beat, is that those Wilderness Reclamations. Anything else we're going to bring in? We brought in 4 copies of Negate, Disdainful Stroke, Search for Azcanta. Let's go and get the converted mana cost on this. Yeah, that looks pretty well. That looks pretty good. You know what, if we're still going to be doing Divine Visitation, let's just bring in 1 more copy of Deploy. I think that'll be good. We could bring in Deputy Detention, but we'll try to make this work, and then I'll see you in Game 2. Okay, welcome to Game 2. As far as our opening hand goes, this is, well, we've got 4 lands. We've got, yeah, I guess this is not too bad. I'd hate to mulligan into something that just goes nowhere really quick. We maybe could have mulliganed a little bit more aggressively on that one, but with Anticipate, that's going to allow us to look at the top 3 cards of our library. I kind of like that. We'll hopefully be able to find some sort of answer, some sort of counter magic for our opponent's Nexus of Fate, or even just simply an answer for Wilderness Reclamation. Okay, hit another Anticipate. That's actually pretty good. We'll go Plains. Let's go Anticipate. Probably anticipating our opponent bringing in some sort of counter magic to fight our counter magic for their Nexus of Fate. So, and that's going to be, yeah, I guess, well, actually, we need to get some sort of threat on the battlefield. I like Divine Visitation. Let's put those on the bottom in any order, and then we'll use this last Anticipate to find some sort of counter spell. Worst case scenario, if our opponent's off to some sort of slow start, we can get down Divine and then go for that Dawn of Hope. Let's get down Island. That's going to leave them open. Yeah, I think we're okay with seeing if this Dawn of Hope's going to stick. If they want to burn a counter spell on Dawn of Hope, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, that's kind of one of those. I'm treating Dawn of Hope kind of like a Thoughtseize. You know, if they want to get rid of Negate on Dawn of Hope, that's perfectly fine for us. And then once we get down Divine Visitation, that'll allow us to kind of build up some sort of board state. Okay, let's just go and pass turn to our opponent. We're looking at Anticipate. We have Negate up on our opponent's turn. We've got Chemist's Insight for some card draw. So we've got some good options. We'll see what they decide to get down. Then worst case scenario, we simply just end up going for, yeah, let's go for Chemist's Insight. That'd be a good counterspell test for them, a hard counterspell test, and also give some pretty good card. Ooh, Teferi, I like that. But I think on Teferi, we want to leave up Negate back up for sure. So we'll get down Island. Yeah, we get down Island, then we're going to go and pass the turn over to our opponent. So that's going to leave us open on Absorb, Negate, and Anticipate. We're simply just going to sit back and let our opponent be the aggressor on this one. Now, yeah, I think we go for Absorb. Yeah, I think I like cashing that in because that 2-card draw, we want to try to keep this as low to the ground as possible. And just really kind of stopping any sort of card advantage from our opponent is going to be good. Plus that 3 life gain really works out. And we can still end up saving a negate for those bigger Nexus spells. We just want to try to expend our opponent on any sort of resources that they do have and just slowly build up our resources. Let's go for Anticipate. We look at the top 3 cards of our library. And I think at this point, since we do have the land drop, let's just go and go for another Absorb. Put those on the bottom in any order. We just want to basically stop whatever our opponent can get going. Now, this is double Chemist's Insight or that other 5-mana draw spell. That's, yeah, Chemist's Insight, go for it. It'll be 2-card draw, and then we can still... And the good thing about this is it's going to set us up for a really nice Teferi. Now, we do have to watch out for Spell Pierce. If they've got Spell Pierce, they've got it. Hopefully they don't. But at least get down Teferi, go for the +1. We're going to be able to cash in a card draw and untap 2 lands, which is going to keep us open on double Negate and double Absorb. So we're feeling a lot better about this Nexus matchup. Okay, so let's untap Islands, untap Island, untap Plains, there we go, and then kick it back over to our opponent. So, next turn we can slowly start working towards Divine Visitation. That's going to put us at 6 mana. If we hit the land drop, that's going to be 7, and I'd like to get it to a position to where, actually, yeah, we can go for... Do we need to go for Negate on this, on what Wilderness Reclamation? Yeah, let's go for Absorb, because we really want to just, you know, have the most amount of mana available possible to counter some of these. Okay, so they're going to go for Negate. That's fine. They'll get rid of that Wilderness Reclamation, and that'll still leave us open for Negates. Now, hopefully we hit the land drop. That'll put us on Divine and Negate, and then we can get down some of these tokens, and they get to untap their lands. But you can see where Wilderness Reclamation is just bananas in a deck like this. Let's go for the Teferi activation, draw card, then untap up to 2 lands, draw into another Absorb. Let's go Divine Visitation. It's going to be 1, 2, 3. And that way they do have some sort of counter magic. We can stop that. And it also does leave us open on double Negate for next turn, and we can go for Deploy with an open Divine Visitation. So let's go and untap Island and Plains. That'll put us at 4 total mana, and we'll see what our opponent has for the turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That does put them in the Nexus of Fate range, so we'll kind of see what we would end up going for. Nexus of Fate, just main phase, just straight up. Yeah, Negate? Yeah, that feels pretty good. Okay, and that'll put us in a position where we can end up going for... You know, if they have another maybe they have another Nexus of Fate? Let's go double Negate. That feels pretty good. All right, double Negate on this. That's going to get rid of the... oh, that felt good. And then we'll end up going for the... All right, we're going to go to sideboarding. Okay, as far as what it... sorry, I've been on the other end of Nexus of Fate 400 times, and it just felt so good that double Negate's going to seal the deal. Anything else that we want to bring in? Do we want to bring in Deputy of Detention? No, I think we're good. That's we got our answer. That's a bunch of Negates is going to... Anyway, I'll see you in Game 3. Okay, welcome to Game 3. As far as our opening hand goes, yeah, I like this. We got Often Negate, and we got Chemist's Insight, so we'll keep on this one. Man, even if we don't win this match, we've already won in my head. And I'm sorry that we're not getting any angels down. You know, this is one of those, I want to get down some angels as bad as possible, but it's kind of once you get down to the Divine Visitation lock, we'll go for Island. I want this Op to stick, so we're just going to go ahead and go for it right now. Island on top. Yeah, that's fine. We'll put it on top. Draw into that, that'll be a 4 lands. So basically with the Divine Visitation, as you could tell last turn, you know, we would have gotten the Angels down, and that would have been a really good stabilizing factor for us. Most of the time, once you get down Divine Visitation unchecked, most of your time your opponents are going to scoop up on that just because it's just so hard to beat if they don't have an answer. So as much as I want to get down these Angel tokens, you can see where we had it set up to where we could get those Angel tokens down, and hopefully we can still beat this Nexus of Fate deck. Man, that felt good. There's times in Magic where, you know, let's get our turn rolling, and then I'll kind of talk about it. Let's get down Glacial Fortress. That'll be good. And then we've got double negate again. So I'm feeling pretty good about this matchup. There's times in Magic, like I play a lot of Modern, and if you play against Lantern Control, you know, you always want to win. You're sitting down to play a game of Magic, you always want to win. But there's certain matchups to where if you beat this particular deck, you feel really good. You're like, man, that's a feel-good moment for me. And like beating Lantern in Modern is definitely a feel-good moment because you have to earn your win. And so, you know, same thing with playing Rat Colony on Arena or any sort of just really, you know, for some reason, it's just, you just want to beat that deck in particular. Like, it always feels good to beat Burn. But going double negate on Nexus of Fate to just, that felt good. That felt really good. So at this point right now, if they want to end up going Wilderness Reclamation, they certainly can. We're not worried about a Soldier token. The only thing that we are worried about is them getting some life gain and drawing some cards. So that's something we do kind of want to watch out for, at least be aware of. But I think at this point, if they're not trying to jam a Nexus Wilderness Reclamation, we'll probably end up going for Chemist's Insight just to cash in some card draw. And then hopefully we can get a few tokens going. You know, if they're on the Dawn of Hope game plan, that's perfectly fine for us. Yeah, let's go and go for this Chemist's Insight. That'd be a great way to, if they've got a counterspell in their hand, they might feel obligated to kind of burn their counterspell. We got a full play set in the gates. All right. Let's get down Island, and then we'll go ahead and pass the turn. Unfortunately, we're going to have to get rid of a card. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I guess I just really hope our opponent gets out some sort of answer. We've got 8 cards in the hand. Yeah, we'll get rid of Plains because we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's fine. We'll get rid of Plains because I like Chemist's Insight, and then we can still end up going for Chemist's Insight this turn, but with a full, we got a 4 of a kind negates. I'm ready for this matchup. Okay, all right. So they got the Soldier token swinging across for 1, and we'll get some stuff set up. Oh man, this is good. Oh yeah, this is, I mean, you know, most of the time you're not happy to see that many Nexus of Fates, but let's go and jam another Chemist's Insight, and we're just going to get the card advantage going. Teferi, yes, that is definitely good. All right, draw into Island. Okay, let's get down another Island, and so we end up going to Teferi. We can untap. We won't have double negate, but they don't really have any sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I feel a little bit better. Do we end up going for Teferi? That's going to completely cut us off any sort of negate action. I think we waited out one more turn because I want to be able to get down Teferi and protect Teferi. We've got tons of answers for next turn. I feel like if we just tap out for Teferi and they counter it, and then they deploy out a ton of their resources, that is not going to be good for us. So we're both kind of in this weird holding pattern. Then at the same time, we can also go for we can just go for Chemist's Insight to draw some cards. So, but I like leaving up these tons of options with the negate. We'll get rid of Plains, and then we'll just go ahead and kick it over to our opponent. If they don't deploy anything out, we might end up going for a Chemist's Insight, discarding Glacial Fortress, but I kind of like holding on to that. And then once we get down to Teferi, then we can really kind of start going for some action from our opponent. That's going to force these Soldier tokens to start swinging in at Teferi, and kind of put us in a position where we can go for that -3. And they did not end up paying for that life gain. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they're waiting for a clear way to go for this Nexus of Fate. So we can, no, let's go Glacial Fortress. We've got answers for it. So we go Glacial Fortress. You know, we end up tapping out for Teferi. They go Counterspell. That still leaves us open on the gate. And then we untap with 2 lands. Yeah, I think this is a good time to go for it. Man, I feel like we're, because they keep going with those Soldier tokens. I feel like this Nexus of Fate's coming from a mile away. Even if they go like double Nexus of Fate, do we want to get down to, yeah, we need to get down a thread. Let's go for Teferi. You might as well just go and get down to Teferi. Okay, that's going to stick. So we go for the +1. That's still going to leave us open on 2 negates, and I feel pretty good about that. Okay. Okay, so we'll go for the +1 draw card, draw into island, and then we're going to be able to untap 2 lands. And let's go and untap double islands. That way they kind of know what's up. And we'll probably end up seeing this Nexus of Fate in response to this Teferi, I would assume. Oh, Chemister's Insight. I think where we want to fight, the hill we want to die on, is definitely going to be Wilderness and Nexus of Fate. So we'll go and let this go through, and then we'll get to untap these islands. Okay, there we go. So we've got a threat on the battlefield. We got Teferi, we got that to stick. I was worried about them deploying out a ton of threats. They do have some really good card advantage in the hand too. So, but at this point right now, we're leaving up all of our negates, and we're simply just going to be on the card draw game plan from Teferi. Do we want to go for negate? I think that's a good answer. Yeah, we'll go for negate on Search for Azcanta because that's really going to allow them to filter their card draw, and that's not going to be fun to play against. Let's see. Wilderness Reclamation. I think we go negate on that. And that puts them in a position to where they've got 2 mana left over. This is going to make this Teferi feel really nice. Even then, we get into a position to where we can go for a Chemister's Insight and really kind of deploy some stuff out. And especially if they're paying for Dawn of Hope, so they must not have too much in their hand, or at least any sort of counter magic to stop us. So, okay, drawn to another Hallowed Fountain. Not exactly what we wanted to see. Let's go for the +1 draw card. So we draw into Search for Azcanta. We get down island, and the coast is clear at this point right now. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with the land drop. Chemister's Insight, Search for Azcanta. It's going to be 6 and still leave up double negate. I think that's pretty good. Okay, so we get down island. We go Chemister's Insight. And we're going to discard Hallowed Fountain. We're going to draw 2 cards, draw into another Teferi. Let's go for Search for Azcanta. And then anything else. Hopefully, once we get down the Divine Visitation, we find one of our deploy cards. That should give us a pretty good answer to stop, get down some sort of threat to really kind of start putting some pressure on our opponent. Okay, and I can't remember if we left the Dawn of Hope in here, but if we did, then that's another card that we can start digging with. But at this point, with Chemister's Insight, I'm not entirely sure if we want to end up going for that in-step, because our opponent can always just end up going for the Nexus of Fate in response to that, which we don't want to happen. So, okay, they're going to get in Temple Garden. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see what they're tapping out for. Is this going to be? This is going to be Nexus of Fate. Let's go negate on Nexus of Fate. Let's go negate on Nexus of Fate. Okay, so it's going to send in. They might have an extra one in the hand, but at this point right now, we've run out of stuff. We still have Absorb to counter that spell, but we're going to go on the Teferi game plan. We're going to have Search for Azcanta coming down, Anticipate. I think we're okay with drawing that. No, that's fine. We'll draw into that, and then yes, we'll go and transform Search for Azcanta. It's going to turn into an additional land. Let's go for the +1 on Teferi. Actually, let's get down Divine Visitation first. So we get down Divine Visitation. Let's go for the +1 from Teferi. Drawn to Tezzeret. And actually, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. We shock in Hallowed Fountain. Now, here's the deal. We get to untap 2 lands. We'll wait for Tezzeret now that I think about it. Yeah, let's get down Hallowed Fountain, because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4... 5. We untap 2 lands, it's going to be 7. That still cuts us off Absorb and Tezzeret, unfortunately. Yeah, so we'll put into play Hallowed Fountain. It's going to put into play, not going to pay 2 live. And then we're going to be able to untap it with Teferi. And that'll still put us on Anticipate and Absorb, allowing us just to dig a little bit deeper into our library, and hopefully setting up a Tezzeret style going for those tokens. So let's untap Glacial Fortress and Hallowed Fountain. And we're doing okay on time. We are sitting at 11 minutes. We do need to kind of speed it up just a little bit. But this has definitely been a good game. And we've got the Soldier Token swinging in at Teferi. And this is the kind of magic that's just fun. You know, we've got 2 Soldier Tokens that are just putting in some work. We get to cast a full playset of negates. Now, that's the downside about Nexus of Fate, is that it gets shuffled back into the library. So it's really hard to deal with. But we've made our opponent sweat it out. And then that's the important thing. That's we've had some fun. Growth Spiral, yeah, go for it. Okay, so we got the Soldier Token swinging us, so knockdown Teferi. It's still going to leave us open on Teferi, and we can end up going for a really nice Anticipate. And then I guess at this point we just grab another Anticipate. Put those on the bottom in any order. Look at the top 4 cards. And I guess we could just straight up go for Search for Azcanta. Because either way, we're not going to have... Yeah, let's go for Search for Azcanta. Look at the top 4 cards. That does leave us open. We'll see. I don't know what they're going to try to jam right now, but it's only 5. Okay, they're going to end up going for that. We still would have ended up holding on to Absorb to counter a Nexus of Fate. So, ooh, Sinister Sabotage. That's what we're looking for. We're just looking for hard answers at this point right now. Put those on the bottom in any order. And then we draw into Island. So we get down Island, and they're completely tapped out. So at this point, we want to get the Teferi going. We go +1 on Teferi. Draw a card. Ooh, there we go. Depose and deploy. So we tap down for Tezzeret. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. We get to untap. Yeah, we need to get some action going on our side of the battlefield. And so that's going to be Tezzeret. We go for the +1. That's going to give us a 4/4 Angel token. And we get to untap next turn with Absorb and Sinister Sabotage. So we've got double counter spells. Yeah, this is wonderful. I like that. And even then, because it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we untap. That'll also allow us to keep up deploy too. So let's untap 2 lands. Let's go double Island. And then anything else. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's going to be 8 total mana. So we're definitely going to be online for deploy and both of those. And that's going to allow us Search for Azcanta. Yep, that's fine. We don't really want to fight over that at this point right now. So now that we've kind of burned through all of our negates, we still did bring in the Disdainful Strokes. We've got 2 of those that we brought in. So hopefully we can find those Disdainful Strokes and then allow us to kind of fight these Nexus of Fates. And then also Teferi. I think we need to go for Absorb on this one. Yeah, we need to Teferi's definitely allow them to get some good... That would allow them to deal with Divine Visitation, which is not going to be good for us. And there's going to be one more... Chemister's Insight. Okay, so do we got to let that stick, because we're going to use Sinister Sabotage as the hard counter. And once they do swing in, we'll end up going for Deploy with these 2 soldier tokens, if they decide to swing in with both. So we're going to go for Deploy. That's going to be 4 angels. Oh, look at that. That's gonna yes, opponent's going to scoop it up. So we beat Bant Nexus. You can see where this is exactly what the deck wants to do. We get down these angel tokens. We go for Depose. Get down these flyers. And then, yeah, get down Tezzeret. Start going from there. I was really worried about game 1. I was like, oh, no, we're playing against Bant Nexus. But we're able to get it on this one. So definitely a good game to our opponent. And I really hope you enjoyed that full 4 set of 4 of a kind negates on that. Anyways, I'll catch you in the next game. All right, bye. Welcome to Tezzeret Deploy. Hope you're excited to get some angels on the battlefield. As far as our opening hand goes, we've got double planes in the hand and nowhere to go really quick with Anticipate. Yeah, let's go and mulligan. I'm not super wild about this opening hand. Yeah, we can make this work. That's going to put us online for Anticipate. We have Absorb, hopefully if we hit another blue source, and then we get down Dawn of Hope. So we'll definitely keep on this one. And then planes on top. You know, let's go and put that on the bottom for right now. And let's go and lead off with Hallowed Fountain. Then to play tapped and not going to pay 2 life, and then we'll kick it over to our opponent. And also, as far as our basics go, I do apologize. I uploaded this deck list from Arena because I've been working on that client, and I didn't realize that it put all the normal basics in here. I normally like to hand select my basics, so you might see them change later in the videos. Let's go ahead and get down Island, and we see green from our opponent. I guess at this point we'll just... yeah, I don't mind getting down Dawn of Hope. You know, if we're playing against green, might be playing against some sort of Golgari Undergrowth or Sultai Krasis, but we'll kind of see what our opponent has in store from us. All right, Harbor. Hopefully it's just not Bant Nexus. If it looks like just a little bit of an Explore deck, I will I will definitely take that. Nexus playing against Nexus decks are very just... Oh. All right, so we do run into Chromatic Lantern. With this particular deck, we really want to race to 5 as quickly as possible. We could leave up Absorb. We don't really have to worry about any sort of Krasis at this point right now, so I think I just kind of want to jam a Chromatic Lantern. Once we get that down, that'll kind of make it a little bit easier to get down these Divine Visitations, and also once we finally do run into Tezzeret, we can get down Tezzeret and start plussing up on Tezzeret and turning those Thopters into some beautiful 4/4 Angel tokens. So... it's kind of name of the game with this deck. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we can simply just make some tokens. So, since we didn't hit the land drop, let's just go and pass the turn. If they're going to be swinging in with Merfolk Branchwalker, we can keep kind of making some of these 1/1 White Soldier tokens with Lifelink. And they might be able to get in for one more swing. But if we want to gain some life and draw a card, we'll have to set it up for next turn because they will be coming in for 8, which is going to be a pretty good chunk of damage. So now that I think about it, let's probably end up going for Anticipate. If we need to catch something with a counterspell, we certainly can, but I think Anticipate's going to be the better option because that's going to allow us to destroy all these creatures, especially if they kind of extend out into this open board state. All right, so they get down Thrashing Bronodon. Let's go for Chromatic Lantern. Let's add blue. Let's see if they end up cracking that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they don't crack that just yet. And even then, we don't even hit a land drop for the turn, which is pretty unfortunate. Well, actually, if we grab Anticipate, we can go double. Yeah, that'll work out really well. So let's go Anticipate again. Because at this point right now, we're just looking for a land at this point. Glacier Fortress, that'll be good. Let's put those on the bottom. And then, yeah, we could have gone for that. If we had 4 lands, we could have gone for the other one. But as soon as we get this land to stick, we're going to immediately tap that mana. So let's go for Cleansing Nova, destroy all creatures. We'll probably see that Thrashing activation in response to that to take care of our Chromatic Lantern or maybe even Dawn of Hope. If they end up going for Dawn of Hope with Thrashing, we can still get down our super secret copy of Dawn of Hope in our hand. So let's see what sort of activation they decide to go for. Okay, so they will end up going for Dawn of Hope on targeting Dawn of Hope, which is perfectly fine with us because that's kind of more of a, if we have a ton of mana, it's a great way to sink that extra mana. It's really just more of kind of a good utility card for the deck, especially once we finally hit that Divine Visitation or get Tezzeret down and really start plussing up on that. All right, so our opponent's going to get down Growth Chamber Guardian and Merfolk Branchwalker. Ooh, and then we're drawn to Teferi. So let's get down Plains. Let's go for Teferi, because that's going to be tap down. Let's go for the +1 draw card, and then drawn to Cleansing Nova. And then we're going to be able to untap our lands. That does put us in a position to where they can swing in at Teferi. They do have at least 4 points of damage, and then once they go for this Adapt off of Growth Chamber Guardian, that will definitely make enough to take care of Teferi. So, but at least they'll kind of force them to go for the Adapt, which will kind of make this Cleansing Nova just a little bit easier. And then once we kind of find our I guess technically you call them combo pieces, whatever you want to call them. Once we find Divine Visitation and a token source, we can just go to town with some of those angel tokens. All right, so we've got it's going to take care of Teferi. He's going to go into the bin. And then so we're playing against Teamer. Okay, see that Steam Vent's come down. We'll see if there's anything else they want to go for, but even if it's a creature, we'd probably still end up going for letting it resolve, so we can go for Cleansing Nova. Let's go Plains. Let's go for Cleansing Nova again. Destroy all creatures. It's going to take care of all of them, and with that last 2 mana, let's get down Dawn of Hope, and then we'll go and pass the turn back over to our opponent. So we got pretty lucky hitting double Cleansing Novas. That's going to be a great way for us to kind of clear the way to make sure it's clear. But with this Growth Chamber, when they keep going for that Adapt, it's basically kind of like almost like a relentless rat deck. They can keep going for that. They never stop coming. You can just basically keep going for that Adapt and keep getting them down. Let's see what we hit off of this. Drawn to Island. But at least at this point right now, we've got enough mana to where we can at least make a Soldier token and start cashing in some of this card draw. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 8 total mana, so we're at least looking at double tokens. At this point right now, we're just going to be blocking on the bigger Growth Chamber Guardian because we want to be able to cash in some of that card draw. So let's see how they decide to swing in, and then we'll definitely be making a Soldier token. Okay, let's go Dawn of Hope activation. Now, if they end up going for the Adapt activation on the other Growth Chamber, that's perfectly fine because we just want to get some sort of card draw going, and at the same time, we're going to cash in a little bit of life gain. It's going to put us back up to 10, and that's going to be basically, yeah, that's fine. Go for the Adapt, and the next turn we'll basically just do the same thing. Okay, so it puts us down to 6. We're definitely going to pay for 2 on this. Drawn to Tezzeret. Okay, so at least next turn we're looking at getting down Tezzeret, and that's going to get, if we hit the land drop for the turn, that's going to be a Tezzeret token and us getting down another token with Dawn of Hope. Well, except if they go for Vivian Reed. So we're basically kind of on the Cleansing Nova game plan or bust. Let's see what we run into Divine Visitation. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 total mana. We go Tezzeret. That's going to be a Thopter token. But then at that point, they're going to be able to go for the -3 destroy target creature with flying. So I think, we can go for Tezzeret, draw a card for 0. That's going to put us at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's only going to give us 3 total mana left over. And yeah, we can't do anything. So good game to our opponent. They're able to keep up with that Those growth chamber guardians were really just kept the assault going. Now, as far as what we want to bring in, let's go for deputy of detention. I think that's going to be really good. If they're going to be getting a lot of those growth chamber guardians, I want to be able to find a way to deal with those. Let's bring in one more Teferi. I kind of like it in this particular matchup. We don't really necessarily need exposed to daylight. Do we want to bring in negate? So we brought in 3 Deputy of Detentions, we brought in 1 Teferi. Let's back off 1 Divine Visitation. I like the Cleansing Novas, I like the Settle the Wreckage, I like this. Do we want to back off some of the artifacts in this one? I think in this case we can just kind of back off the Tezzerets, or at least one of the Tezzerets. We can back off some of these artifacts, simply just to kind of put us in a position. We'll still leave in Chromatic Lantern, because that kind of really helps us power out some of these spells. And then we'll bring in Negate, which is going to be an answer for Vivian. And I think that'll be pretty good, because this is going to really settle us into kind of a little bit of a slower game. So let's go and insert this by converted mana cost. Yeah, it's still keeping us on the Divine Visitation deploy game plan. We're going to kind of increase our Teferi numbers and back off Teferi, back off Tezzeret. Kind of like this. All right, I'll see you in game 2. Welcome to game 2. As far as our opening hand goes, we've got Guildgate, Island, Plains, Anticipate. Yeah, I like this. We've got Chromatic Lantern. It's going to help us kind of work towards the Settle the Wreckage. And we do have a turn 2 play in Anticipate. So this is pretty much everything we want to see in opening hand. And Teferi. Let's hopefully keep those Guardians in check. Let's lead off with the Zorius Guildgate. And then we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't really have any of our fun pieces in our opening hand. That happens sometimes. And but hopefully we can get some good stuff going this turn. Let's get down Island. Now, since we did see blue from our opponent, I really want this Anticipate to stick. So we're going to go and jam and Anticipate just to kind of dig into our library. This is going to be Cleansing Nova, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, let's go Cleansing Nova. That was really good in this particular matchup. We'll put those on the bottom in any order, and then we'll go and pass the turn to our opponent. So next turn we are looking at Plains, getting that down, going for Chromatic Lantern, and that still puts us in a position to where we can go for Anticipate to hit that next land drop. And hopefully we can kind of just settle some of these growth chambers. That does give them a few extra mana. It really does help them go for the adapt, but kind of got to use what we got to use to help kind of deal with this problem. Let's get down Island. Let's go for Chromatic Lantern. It's going to be 1, 2. And that'll put us at Teferi for next turn. And then possibly, if they don't get a ton of growth chambers on the battlefield, or if we can maybe go for a quick settle, hopefully we can kind of keep the board clear for Teferi, especially if we can sequence a Cleansing Nova to follow up with the Teferi. That'd be a great way to make sure we can get some really good card advantage going. Okay, now one of the ways that we can deal with Growth Chamber without them just constantly getting it down is we have to get rid of it before they go for the Adapt, so that's something we want to try to do. Let's go Plains. You know what, I think if we end up going Teferi, yeah, I like this. We go Teferi at this point, we go for the -3, put it on the bottom. That's going to be them recasting another card. We can go Cleansing Nova. Yeah, I like that. So we go -3 on Growth Chamber. That's going to get rid of their clock and put us in a position to where we can basically just kind of keep plussing up with Teferi. That does leave us open to something like Shock or Lightning Strike, but if they have it, they have. Ooh, excuse me, they've got Grill Spellbreaker. Okay, that's going to take care of Teferi. I'm really liking this build from our opponent. I was worried with it being Teamer that it was going to be Gates or Nexus Teamer, but yeah, this is a pretty cool build by our opponent. All right, so we run into Deploy. We've got Cleansing Nova. We've got Settle the Wreckage if they want to go for that. You know, let's just go ahead and pass the turn. It's going to leave us open for Anticipate. We can go for the Deploy, and then we'll see what sort of creatures they get down. Hopefully they extend into some of those Growth Chamber Guardians. It is a 2-mana creature, so if they end up getting those down, that'll make this Cleansing Over really nice. And then the only downside with Grill Spellbreaker on the battlefield is we cannot use Settle the Wreckage, to my knowledge. Yeah, they have hexproof, so we cannot target our opponent with Settle the Wreckage. So that is a little bit of a bummer. But we'll go and let that damage come across. We'll see if our opponent has anything else to get down for the turn, and then we'll see if we want to end up going for Jadelight Ranger. Yeah, I think I'm okay with going Counterspell on this one, because that's going to force them to jam the Simic Growth Chamber. Yeah, I think we're okay with this. Yeah, let's go white. That's going to be a little bit extra life gain. And it helps if we tap down for the correct mana. There we go, one more blue color. Okay, so we're going to go for Absorb. The good thing about this is it's going to cut off some of that Explore and just make it to where they might just have to end up going for Growth Chamber. Okay, so they don't. Let's go Anticipate. And it looks like our opponent's basically going to be trying. Ooh, Cleansing Nova. I'll take another one of those. That'll be perfect. Because it looks like our opponent's just trying to get it on the back of Grill Spellbreaker, make us kind of force our spot removal. All right, so we go Cleansing Nova. If we want to buy some time next turn, we can end up going for Depose. We can go for Deploy and Sequence and Opt. That'll buy us a little bit more time. I think I like that. And let's do, instead of just straight up going for Cleansing Nova, let's try to set this up for the pretty long game. Let's go for Deploy next turn. That'll be a blocker. Well, actually, I forgot that Spellbreaker has Trample, so that's not going to be as good, but we can still end up going for that. It's going to be some life gain, and it'll still put us up in a position to where we can go for Ops. So we'll go for Deploy before we go to blocks. That's going to give us 2 life gain once we get down these Thopters, and that'll allow us to simply just, I think at this point we'll just go and take the hit. That's going to put us down to 15, which is really not that bad. That's fine. All right, so they're going to put us down to 15, and then we'll end up going for Opt at the end of our end step, and then hopefully they kind of deploy out into this open board state. The Growth Chamber into another Growth Chamber would be absolutely wonderful. But if they're going to play the cautious route, I completely understand that. We'll go for Opt. It's going to scry 1, dig 1. Tezzeret is actually going to be a... Yeah, I kind of like that. We go Tezzeret, we go for the 0, draw 2 cards. Yeah, that's going to get some really good card advantage. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so we run into Hollowed Fountain. Let's go Tezzeret. That does leave us open to where we can block with 2 tokens, but this is exactly the board state we want to see. We've got 2 artifacts, 1 artifact. Oh, negate. Oh, this kills the crap. Okay, let's get down Hollowed Fountain into play tap. Not going to pay. Oh, man, this is brutal. All right, and then we'll go ahead and pass the turn to our opponent. Get really excited about that Tezzeret. Okay, good thing is, though, that they ended up going for negate on Tezzeret. That's a perfectly fine play. We still got double Cleansing Novas. We can clear the way. We still have Settled the Wreckage. So hopefully that'll buy us a little bit more time. And at this point, just in case that's going to be 7 coming across, I think we block with 1 Thopter on Growth Chamber because we're probably going to see the Adapt coming down, and it doesn't have Trample. So I might as well just go and eat that point of damage. And if they want to end up going for Adapt, they certainly can. And let's see what this, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, Hydrocrisis for 4. Okay. All right, so we will be cashing in this Cleansing Nova. That's going to be definitely enough for us to go for that. And then we rip into another Hollowed Fountain. Let's go and swing in with the Thopter token. They're probably going to sniff this Cleansing Nova from a mile away, but if we can get in for at least 1 point of damage with the Thopter, we'll take it. So we're going to swing in with the Thopter token. Yeah, that Krasis, he's hungry. He's got a big old brain to feed. Let's go for Cleansing Nova. Destroy all creatures. That's going to be double white. And then we get down Hollowed Fountain. We're going to put that into play tapped. No reason to shock that in. We could try to represent something like Negate, but we don't really want to take that life hit at this point. And let's... Oh, are they going for another Krasis? Uh-oh. This is the point of the game to where if we get down, hopefully we can find... Oh, no, this is not looking good. All right, so we get that down. We can try to set up another Settle the Wreckage on this Krasis, which wouldn't be that bad. That would just be basically like a Path to Exile style effect with that swinging in. We can make that swing. The only downside is we've got all this Krasis card draw, which is going to be really hard for us to compete with. All right, so they got Krasis coming across. Let's go Settle the Wreckage. And if we end up losing this game, it's because I didn't have hand-selected basics, so I just want you to know that. That's the main reason why. All right, so they get the forest down, but this has been a wonderfully played game by our opponent. Definitely, that negate was, oh, that was brutal. I was just sitting there anticipating all the beautiful cards we were going to draw, and then that just, that really hurt. Now, our only hope is that if our opponent, I think... Is that the last Growth Chamber Guardian? It's going to make this Cleansing Nova really nice, and then hopefully we can just run them out of resources. Absorb. Do we have enough? Either way, we're going for Destroy All Creatures. Destroy All Creatures, and that still puts us open for Absorb. And even if they have some sort of counter magic to stop this, all right, let's go for Absorb, because we really need this to stick. That's going to give us some life gain, put us back up to 15, destroy all creatures, and it kind of puts us in this top deck mode. So now if we find Teferi, that will certainly allow us to really get some good card advantage going. If they tap out for a Krasis right now, hopefully not, but it looks like it. Okay, Vivian Reed, well, it's not the best. Vivian Reed can go for the +1. But to say, if they get down, if they just pass the turn, we'd be in a pretty good position. But with Vivian Reed, That's going to allow them to basically just scry for 5 every single turn, and that's not going to be super good for us. Now, a Thrashing Bronodon, they can just basically just go and crack it and go for Chromatic Lantern. They have not seen Divine Visitation just yet, so we do get in this position to where we might be able to stabilize if we do run into Divine Visitation. But we've definitely put the deck through the ropes. You can definitely see that this is what the deck's trying to do. And, you know, this is a brew for standard, so it's not always going to compete super well with some of the better cards out there. Opponent's going to reveal a Gruul Spellbreaker off of that Vivian Reed flip. So it's going to let them swing in. That's going to be 4 coming in this turn. It's going to put us down to 11. And interesting enough, they didn't go for that Gruul Spellbreaker main phase. So it makes me wonder if they've got something else in the hand. And I think they did get that Harbor down for the turn. So we're going to cross this Growth Chamber off. And it's another Krasis for 9. Uh-oh. And the gate's not going to be able to do anything on this one. And that's going to be a 9-9. That's going to be 10. That's going to be 13. Do we run into Cleansing Nova? We run into Absorb. Good game to our opponent. This is a well-fought game by our opponent. That was pretty good. But yes, like I told you, we lost because we didn't have the hand-selected basics. But anyway, I'll see you in the next game. Bye.